for said rehearing, plus all of my evidence, the Attorney General chicanerously forwarded to the Bar Association Grievance Committee for prosecution of felon gangster mafiotic negroidic, the Black Frank Gelada, a gangster judge, therefore unprosecutable, the blackish, menial, negroidic in appearance and demeanor, felon, vicious, parroting puppet, ex-district attorney Nassau County, with no private law experience, detested by all factions, in spite of this solely because of his many-year secret gangsterization and crucifixion of me, this negroidic, low, mafiotic, deadly Black Frank Gelada was then immediately and unprecedentedly and repeatedly, rapidly promoted in spite of tremendous opposition to the present position of second highest state judgeship solely through gangster computer god manipulation. As additional evidence, during the last week of my within-mentioned month-long, worse-than-a-farce Nazi court criminal trial in Nassau County Court, 1958, where dwarfed-it felon gangster parroting puppet rectum lapper sodomist Judge William Sullivan's ball of fat felon slut wife, she, as planned, sat in the front row, repeatedly stripping her overclothes and completely pulling up her dress and slip and pulling aside her old-fashioned pink bloomers in order to display her anus, her conch. She repeatedly gesticulated and whispered, "I'll give it to you to suck. Finish him." Her husband's dwarfed-it felon gangster parroting puppet rectum lapper sodomist Judge William Sullivan, flushed-faced in repeated open sodomistic displays, stuck out his tongue, wiggling it, chuckling to her. "You hangman rope gangster felon parroting puppet scum on top playboys can watch my Frankenstein eyesight television playback of this felonious lowly sodomistic display by the felon sodomist Judge William Sullivan and his lowly felon slut wife during my trial in Nassau County Court. After my worse-than-Nazi court criminal conviction, crucifixion, for years in poverty I suffered hopeless, jobless, character assassination, and isolation in this low, deadly nigger town. I was the repeat target victim of this gangster government's gangsterization and undetectable extermination attempts to shut me up forever with my secrets. Then, in December 14th to 17th, 1965, I attempted to escape this worst mongrel gangster communist country to return to the Slovenic Polish land of my forefathers. Instead, in a gangster-staged parroting puppet deadly conspiracy, I was flown from Kennedy, New York Airport at night to a small distant St. Lawrence River estuary, snowbound small airport under the guise that I was in Warsaw, Poland. Immediately, many, many things proved this to me, including the two big white asbestos shingled hangars with the large Braniff Airways signs on their sidewalls, in addition to the many blurted statements I solicited from the many CIA deadly gangsters, the assassins of me, the many, many parroting puppets all around me. I demanded an immediate flight back to Kennedy, New York Airport. Instead, I was held captive all night later in chains. I refused both all food and requests I go to sleep. Then CIA police gangsters pretending to be Polish police with no identification beat me bloodily. Later, while my return trip 707 Boeing jet airliner was being serviced for my return trip, I quickly walked into the airplane and saw a CIA gangster with a small electric hairdryer type blower pumping deadly poison nerve gas smoke into secret compartments under the ashtrays in the arms of the chairs, where later I was ordered to sit in the airplane full of CIA underlings, passengers, my assassins, who giggled as they watched me dragged in chains by the airplane by the gangster CIA police gangsters. These deadly gangster CIA passengers, they pressed the frontal panel of the ashtrays in the seat arms to release the deadly poison nerve gas smoke. Indubitably, all of the others deadly CIA underling gangsters aboard this staged return flight, they all had taken the top secret poison nerve gas antidote pill, immuning them from the deadly poison nerve gas smoke. Deadly poison nerve gas smoke was sprayed at me from cigars, cigarettes, and even from ballpoint pens, also from the wig of a woman sitting next to me. Even the Swiss cheese type ice cubes were evaporating into poison nerve gas smoke in all of the free drinks. I got up and went to the rear of the airplane by the rear exit door with a large push-up handle. My Frankenstein brain thoughts broadcasting radio disclosed my intentions. Immediately, the loudspeakers screamed that the flight was over and that our airplane was already preparing to land at Kennedy, New York Airport. You hangman rope sneak gangster playboy scum on top know these facts are true, not only from taking part in such undetectable exterminations, but also you chicanerous, demented, felon, parroting puppet gangsters can watch my Frankenstein eyesight television playback of all these horrible, terrifying, deadly events. When I returned home, Joseph I. Deck, my only brother and deadly felon, murderer, and assassin spy agent against me for this gangster government, he beat me repeatedly, cursing me that I was not exterminated by all of the poison nerve gas smoke, and that I did the impossible in that I kept awake for 3 days and refused all food in order to prevent my sneak extermination. In accordance with the completely gangster computer god concocted and manipulated statutory laws, one of your gangster court's requisite duties is to automatically rehear my said appeal case because it has been brought to your attention, you hangman rope gangsters, that my entire life was destroyed by you co-conspirators through the gangster government perjured and fabricated criminal conviction of me in order to fulfill the demands of your communist god, the worldwide mad deadly gangster computer god. You deadly parroting puppet felon gangsters already know that I have been and am an innocent primary victim and target for destruction and extermination because I am a menace to your gangster computer god, and that I am worse than defenseless without the gangster protection and control of the gangster Frankenstein earphone radio. I stand alone against you demented, deadly gangster parroting puppets, namely this worst gangster communist computer god controlled gangster government, before I am exterminated by you hanging rope underlings.
Good evening, everybody out there in, I don't know, internet world. I'm a little behind again tonight because I'm able to sleep all of a sudden, and so I'm still trying to figure out a good sleep schedule because I want to make it to where I can still do these at night. And until I get a better internet connection, this is just the schedule I have to be on. That's just the way it is. If I'm going to stream, I have to stream. It's like Gremlins, only the opposite. Instead of you can't feed them after midnight, I have to feed them after midnight. So it is what it is. But I also want to do I miss my midnight ruck marches. So I'm gonna have to figure something out. And then in terms of the replays, those are on BitChute at any time of day, of course, not all of them. So if you are listening to this if I do a particularly good job and I decide to put this on BitChute, don't think that you're getting all the content. There's much lower quality content that'll be available on DLive that I decided that wasn't fit for BitChute. I don't know. Plus, there's something about the live interaction that just you don't get on BitChute. And, it is what it is. If you're on YouTube, you probably haven't heard from me in a long time and think that I'm dead. Although I've told lots of people on YouTube, for months I've been telling people on YouTube to get over to DLive and BitChute. And I still, to this day, get all these notifications from people saying, like, you haven't posted anything in a while. It's like, bitch, I've posted more in the last month and a half than I think I've posted the whole rest of the year. Minute for minute, absolutely that's true. So nothing really too dramatic has changed, unless you look at again, I don't want to obsess about this, but it's been a source of amusement for me. The BitChute trending page. It's like a thermometer for the sanity level of the people still trusting the plan. And someone made a good analogy the other day. I forget who it was, so I apologize if it was you. I'm not trying to steal your insight. But someone said the BitChute trending page is starting to look like the magazine rack at the checkout at a grocery store, where it's like, UFOs kidnapped my baby. That kind of, do they still have those? Maybe those are called fake news. Maybe they're not allowed to print those anymore. Like, I think there was one called World News Daily or something like that. And, of course, the Inquirer. But the Inquirer supposedly is trying to be less about aliens and the like. But it's still, it's still the Inquirer. But there was a long time. I remember a relative of mine saying stupidly, they were a boomer, of course, well, they couldn't print it if it wasn't true. This was before Trump gave us one of the few gifts he gave us, and that was the destruction of faith in media. And now boomers think, well, they couldn't make this video if it wasn't true. If it's in the New York Times, the boomer knows this cannot possibly be true. But if some guy in his basement tells me something that he heard on a video on the BitChute trending page, then absolutely it has to be true. And if he has a British accent, that really sells it for the boomers. If you have a British accent, that's just like, ooh, fancy. This guy knows what's up. He sounds edumacated. Someone put up here, a lot of BitChute is to signal jam anything legit. Well, on that note, there's a guy on BitChute who I thought was possibly gaming the system because he's literally breaking view records. He came out with a video today, last time I checked, that it was approaching 1 million views, which on BitChute that's insanity. But he had also disabled the comments. And I thought, well, if you were gaming the system, you were putting fake views on a video and fake likes, and then the comments were open and they were all negative because this guy he's out. He's pretty. We'll talk about that in a second, but he's pretty out there. I thought for sure this guy's got to be gaming the system. Maybe they just don't have the same protections that YouTube has. But BitChute, which is they're relatively responsive on Twitter. Hopefully, when and if they get kicked off of Twitter, they're responsive on Gab or whatever else, whatever platforms there are. They actually DM me and said, nope, his view counts check out. So if that's the case, yeah, there's a tremendous number of very lost boomers, because with 5 seconds, because I'd never heard of this guy. This guy had come out of left field. This guy was named Simon something or other. It's probably the same. If you look at BitChute, it's probably still the top trending video. And within like 10 minutes, I discovered this guy has in the past claimed that he gets abducted by aliens all the time. He has an alien wife. I think he's got an Earth wife too, but he's got an alien wife. And 4 times a year, the aliens kidnap him so that he can go see his alien baby. And that's who the boomers are getting their news from right now. He also talks about lizard people. I think that's like a British conspiracy guy thing. The lizard people, because David Icke talked about lizard people. And I guess this guy, they're not, well, they're about the same age. So maybe it's just British boomer conspiracy guys are really into lizard people. But he's also talked about lizard people. But yeah, I was expecting by now that that trending page would get a little bit cleaned up. It's definitely not the case, because now they're just latching on to whoever is still willing to trust the plan, which means it's the Simon guy, but now there's like these newcomers who are just literally just some rando in their living room. One like there's this one lady that Jesus was telling her that Pelosi had already been arrested, and she said this while Pelosi was still live on the House floor, like on C-SPAN. There's this guy that sits, like, this guy's been around a long time, and you can tell he's just I don't think he has much else going on in his life, because it's just this bald older guy in a trailer, and he, like, his entire trailer just has Trump flags all over on the inside, and so he's just he's just clinging on to whatever. And he was just reading some intel that someone had sent him about the arrests are imminent. And then, shockingly, I am actually a little surprised about this. This kind of goes into what I was saying about the people close to Trump. I mean, this guy's not close to Trump, but again, he has a resume at least. He's not just he's not a guy in his trailer with Trump flags all over the place. But I guess that doesn't really matter too much. A lot of these people seem to be just as reliable. But Steve Pachetnik was on InfoWars, I believe, today. The video that I saw was a recording of that uploaded to BitChute. So it might not have been today, but it got posted today. The same Steve Pachetnik that I was telling you that, back in 2016, Drudge embedded a video from him. It was very, very stern and black and white and dramatic, talking about how he had, along with the military, recruited Trump to become president so they could do a coup and get rid of the satanic pedophiles and all this other stuff. I don't know exactly what he was saying, but it was that kind of rhetoric, right? And look, I'll just admit, in 2016, I'd never seen anything like that on Drudge. Like Drudge likes the flashy, clickbaity headlines and stuff like that, but Drudge, by and large, is just posting links of real news. I mean, I don't know about now. I know there's been like a change over at Drudge, but like for the longest time, I mean, look, Drudge broke the Monica Lewinsky story. That's where Drudge got his the ball rolling. Now, there's some other things that I have since learned about Drudge that leads me to believe that, especially given the fact that he's the one that broke the Monica Lewinsky story, there may or may not be ties to a foreign intelligence service that starts with an M and ends with an Osad. But that said, at the time, little old Devon, so innocent back then, it seems like a million years ago, doesn't it? 2016. All the memes, the big meme war, owning the libs, the SJWs, Reen. We were gonna lock her up. We were gonna drain the swamp. We were gonna build the wall. Oh, the wall just got 2 feet taller. Oh my God. And in that mind frame, the night of, or the night before the election, I guess, and it stayed up all throughout the election day, was this video of Steve Pachetnik telling us that, it's very important that you vote for Trump, because if you don't, the forces of evil were going to win, and he was going to do all the things that he said he was going to do because he was recruited by the military, and it was like crazy time. But I was like, fuck, like I've never seen Drudge post something, crazy stuff. It was never, very rarely did Drudge even post InfoWars articles. If he did, it wasn't like the really out there stuff, And I was just like, holy shit. Because Drudge was, still in 2016, one of the go-to places that everyone went, left and right, to see where their news narrative was going to be that day. When I worked in media, and this was the case for really a long time, over a decade that I was in media, even like the leftist journalists would have a tab of Drudge open so they could see what's the country talking about today, whether they liked it or not. Drudge drove the narrative a lot. And as I've mentioned before, a lot of my friends saw that video. A lot of people that were on the fence about Trump, who were Republicans or whatever, maybe they wanted Cruz or whoever, and then they saw that video, and that pushed them to the polls, because they were just like, yeah, this is crazy. I've never seen anything like this on Drudge, and that sounds like a crazy story, but I don't know, fuck it, maybe this is real. Now remember, this is the same Steve Pachetnik that said right after the election that all the ballots had watermarks that were connected to some blockchain, and possibly like they were like Bluetooth. Like it just sounded like in some ways that he was just throwing around computer terms he didn't quite understand, but he was saying that, no, don't worry. We've marked all the machines. We've marked all the ballots. They're all going to be trapped. And then, of course, none of that happened, right? So anyway, he was on InfoWars either today or whenever it was uploaded today. And he still pedaled to the metal. He's still saying, don't worry, guys. Trump's going to be president on January 21st. Everything's going according to plan. You guys just don't understand it. So, there you go. He's still He's still trusting the plan. Someone said something about the MyPillow guy. I haven't seen they come from the MyPillow guy. But one thing I was thinking, because like I've said before, I was wondering why would you keep the grift going at this point? And there was one reason I was thinking before, and now I've since revised that a little bit. The first reason is it's the same reason they were doing it before. It's to pacify people. They don't want people, and look, I don't want people showing up before the 20th. I think it would be a trap. I think you would get. I mean, you'd be, unless you have like some way crazier plan that I can conceive of, like just random people coming up with, you will lose that battle if you just try to I don't know what's your plan. I think DC is a giant open bear trap right now. Even if you just want to go there and peacefully protest, it's probably a bad idea. So I could see them wanting to get people to not show up because they think, oh, don't worry, all those soldiers that I've seen on Twitter and on the news, they're all part of this military coup, so I don't have to worry about it. And look, that's it's preferable to other ways of thinking in terms of the Q people. I can understand them wanting Q people to have that perception, because it'll prevent the crazier ones from actually doing anything crazy, right? The other reason is fundraising. They're still fundraising. And by they, I mean like the Trump organization. They're still fundraising. All these organizations are still fundraising. And if you think it's over, the cash is going to dry up. If you think there's still a chance, you can fundraise longer. Like there was a phone call that came out. I remember a lot of people clung to this, and I think they're still clinging to this because they're just not they're not able to verify it, and anything that gives them any kind of hope whatsoever they're going to cling to. But there was a phone call of basically it just sounded like a bunch of middle-aged women talking about how, oh yes, and oh, by the way, Steve Pachetnik brought this up too. But oh yes, because apparently there was a security breach in Italy, and there's some defense contractors that are getting in trouble for something. And depending on what news outlet you look at, and I'm not Italian, so I don't know how to vet any of these news sources, right? Some of them are saying like, oh look, this has to do with voter fraud. Like the Dominion servers were being hacked through some Italian defense contractor and whatever, right? And so arrests were made. And so these women on this phone call were just discussing that. And I'm sitting there listening because I was a little intrigued. I was like, okay, I'd like to know who these people are. The website that she gave out looked like a hastily put together WordPress site with zero information on it. But it sure had a place you could donate. And that's actually the other part of that phone call that was weird. Well, weird. Was after they did this group prayer thing, which they took turns praying, and look, that's fine, whatever. I'm not going to make fun of Christians for praying, obviously, but there was a weird aspect to it that seemed a little performative. You know what I mean? Like they weren't praying even necessarily for the other people on the call, but they knew that this recording was going to get out, and they wanted to appeal to Christians that would hear like, oh, well, these guys have to be good. They're praying on the call. I better send them my money. Like it had like a televangelist feel to it, I'd have to say. And at the end of the call, of course, well, actually throughout the call, the woman leading the call was over and over and over again talking about how they needed donations for unspecified costs. And again, like I said, like if this really is like a plan, if this is like a plan that the military is on board with, where they're doing some kind of masterful thing with Trump and whatever, why would you need donations? I've seen the military budget. It's pretty big. Don't think you need donations. And why are they relying on these middle-aged white women in the South to do your little secret ops and get information from Italian intel? See, this is the biggest thing, the biggest problem with the people that consume these videos and listen to this audio and think like, oh, good, thank God, there's the Patriots in charge. What they don't understand is, look, if you have access to this, if you're listening to this right now, that means the so-called enemies, the deep state or whatever, they have access to it too. So there's literally no reason to release it in this obscure way, because everyone's going to have access. If you have if it comes to you, the enemy has it already. There's no secret Q network that you're a part of that has totally eluded the deep state, especially if it's on the fucking trending tab of the fastest growing video platform. It's not secret. It's not secret information that no one else has but you. It's information that everybody has. So releasing this information to some guy who said that he's been abducted by aliens and has an alien wife and visits his alien hybrid child 4 times a year doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. There's literally no reason to release information that way. And it's the same thing with Q. If you're able to figure out Q's riddles, so can the enemy. So there's no reason to cloak it in riddles. Because if it's too difficult for the enemy to figure out, you're not going to figure it out either. So there's absolutely no reason to release information that way. None. Unless it's there to distract you or to psyop you into doing something that's irrational, that's based on manipulation. That's the only reason that you would release information in this weird, obscure way, is for manipulation purposes. Not manipulation of the enemy, manipulation of you. So the official countdown, let's see here, the countdown to the inauguration. We have 6 days, 8 hours, 23 minutes and 45 seconds left of the Trump administration. That's right, 6 days. 6 days and 8 hours. But that's okay, because a lot of these Q people have already said that they're going to trust the plan well into March. Some of them are going to trust the plan well into March. I've seen some of they're already kind of, some of the ones that are obviously grifting, who know where this is going and need to keep the grift going a little bit longer because this is where they make their money. They're already they're preparing their audience for something like that. They know that, okay, on the 20th, I'm going to have a mass exodus of audience if Biden's getting sworn in. And because Biden's getting sworn in, basically I've got to come up with a reason why that has to happen. So they're already laying down the groundwork. They're saying, well, it's possible Biden might have to get sworn in order to really fall for the trap. Trump will have lulled them into a sense of security by giving them the presidency. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. I'll tell you one thing though. This is what I was thinking. What's made people stupider isn't, see, when you look at the BitChute trending page, and it's a little it's disappointing, right? It's disappointing to see, like, wow, this is what the majority of the people on this platform are watching. The majority of the people on this platform are watching, like, obvious bullshit. And I don't think they're watching it for the same reason that I'm watching it. I think they're watching it because they believe it. And I was thinking to myself, wow, that's really bad. But at the same time, I mean, look, that's how YouTube kind of was. When YouTube first came out, before they had these algorithms that would filter out shit, it was all this crazy stuff. All kinds of crazy stuff. Now, I think that that's actually a good thing. I think it's a good thing. I think that the reason why a lot of these people are believing all the stuff that's on the BitChute trending page isn't because BitChute isn't filtering this stuff out. I don't want them to filter it out. I think it's because every other platform isn't, well, now they're banning this stuff. So, because they weren't exposed to this stuff, and they weren't forced to filter it out themselves, they weren't forced to use their own discernment to filter it out themselves, because the algorithm just hid it from them all the time. They think it's legit. That, and the fact that if platforms like YouTube or whoever bans it, I mean, now it must really be legit, because what are they trying to hide? If you cut out a man's tongue, all you're saying is that you're afraid of what he might say. I know that's not the exact quote, but you know what I'm talking about. So if YouTube is banning this video, it's because they're afraid of the information that's in it. And so you have all these people that have essentially, they're gullible because the algorithms have been doing all the discernment for them. And then you have the Streisand effect take place when these platforms deplatform like crazy. And by the way, that should tell you something about the mainstream ideas too. If mainstream talking heads, mainstream, the approved voices, the promoted voices on YouTube are unable to compete with the crazy British guy who thinks that aliens, or at least I don't know if he thinks it, but has told people that aliens kidnap him so he can visit his alien hybrid kid 4 times a year and he has an alien wife. If you can't compete with that guy, if you have to like ban that guy or hide him with the algorithm or whatever, because people believe that guy over your guy, that says more about your guy than it says about the alien guy, okay? Or even the audience. If on a even playing field, you can't outcompete the guy who says there are lizard people, look. Yeah, there's going to be just some stupid people that would prefer to live in a fantasy world that's more interesting, and lizard people is interesting, and people like interesting. So, like, look, how are you going to compete with that, right? Like, I can't talk about lizard people because there aren't lizard people. Okay. But he's not just talking about lizard people all the time. And some people, look, there's times, like, when I was younger and I liked UFO stuff like that. I was never, like, thought that I was abducted by aliens, or even that half these people saying they were abducted by aliens. But there was an entertainment value to it, and that's fine. There's an entertainment value to this stuff. But what you do when you force these people into these other platforms like BitChute and stuff like that, you not only in some ways legitimize these guys, but you weaken your own arguments, because now you're not even having to compete with Crazy Lizard Guy. You're competing with what? Cat videos and makeup tutorials. So anyway, I think people will eventually snap out of it. Again, I think that the MAGA thing is going to be stretched out to 2024, and the reason why they have to keep the hope alive is for again, they want people to they want it to be peaceful. They don't want people going down there and doing something crazy. They want them to be actually trusting that everything's still fine, everything's okay, don't worry. But they also want the checks to keep coming in. And if you think that your guy has been defeated, why would you keep sending money? It's over, right? So they're going to try to stretch out as long as humanly possible, well into 2024. Well into 2024. Trump got impeached today. The second time, the only president, I believe, that's been impeached twice. If they convict in the Senate, I don't know where they're at in that process, or if they have anywhere near the numbers that they need to do that. If they convict in the Senate, there will be no Trump 2024. Or if there is, it'll be Donald Trump Jr. or Ivanka or Jared Kushner or something like that. Because Trump will not be eligible to run in 2024. And as I said in my last stream, would that really be so bad? There are some definite benefits to that. It would definitely take the steam out of the Trump cult. We would no longer be competing with this, this giant cloud of Trump hanging over our head. Don't get me wrong, he would still siphon off some people to support Don Jr. or Ivanka even probably. Look, people would probably still vote. People would vote for Kushner if that's who Trump promoted. And why is that such a crazy idea? Why is that such a crazy idea? The same people, I guarantee you, the same people that for the last 4 years, every time Trump did something horrendous, would blame it on Kushner. Which there is some truth to that. But it's still Trump's fault for putting Kushner in charge, right? But all the same people that have been saying that, it's not Trump's fault, Kushner tricked him or whatever. A lot of those people would vote for Kushner. Because they're NPCs. And their programming would get updated and they'd be like, we like Kushner now. Someone just said, Trump proves to all the children in the school that anybody can be president is a fucking lie. Well, yeah, that's been a lie for a long time. When was the last time there was a president that wasn't a billionaire or wasn't backed by billionaires? I can't think of a single one, really. Certainly not in the last century. There hasn't been just like a normal guy that becomes president. And you can argue, well, you don't want a normal guy to be president because he's going to be surrounded by these sharks. He's going to be surrounded by these elites. But come on. Come on. We know that the elites are not elite. We know the elites have been experiencing a level of dysgenics never before seen on this planet. Just like the general population, I guess. But secrecy breeds incompetence, as Julian Assange, who still has not been pardoned, would say. Even though Jared Kushner's dad got pardoned. Explain that, Q people. Jared Kushner's dad, who's a literal gangster, got pardoned. But not Julian Assange. WikiLeaks? I don't know anything about WikiLeaks. Six days, 8 hours. 6 days, 8 hours. And look, I'll say it again. If somehow Trump ends up being a literal comic book character, and this has all been a trick, as Steve Pachetnik is strongly implying, and as all these Q people are outright saying, as lots of boomers out there in their trailers with their Trump flags are rocking back and forth in their chair, punching themselves in the temple, repeating over and over again to trust the plan, believe, if that is what's happening, and on the 20th, the helicopters come swooping in. Look, I'll just say this. If on the 20th, or any time before the 20th, if all of a sudden the internet goes out, I would not be freaked out by that. I would be like slightly elated. And if when the internet came back up, you know, the pedos had been rounded up and they were all in jail, and if I had only trusted the plan, right? Like if the plan was finally executed, soon to be followed by all the pedos. I'll be the first to say, look, I was wrong. Oh, I guess I was wrong. Small price to pay, right? Look, I'll be so fucking excited. That'll be like the most interesting thing that's happened in world history. I do not mind being that kind of surprised. If you think that I'm some kind of egomaniac where I'm going to be upset that happened, it tells you something about these guys that are thinking that, though, right? Doesn't it? They think like, oh, you're going to be sorry when like all of your wildest dreams come true. Like, really? I'm going to be sorry? I don't think I'm going to be sorry. I think I'm going to be cooming all over the fucking place. All right. Well, like I said, I don't have much to talk about today other than the fact that Trump is impeached. The Q people are still on the prowl. And nothing has changed in terms of what I can see going on. It still looks like that's it. It looks like Trump is just trying to squeeze a few more money, shekels out of his followers on the way out. He's throwing everyone under the bus. He won't mention fraud anymore. He won't say that he's not going to concede in the same way that you would see under normal conditions, right? But he'll stop talking about fraud. I said all that, and that's exactly what his speech was at the Alamo. And so you might have a slight slightly more conceding tone coming from Trump, but that's it. I mean, like, he did release a new video today. I don't know if I need to really play it. I'm pretty sure all you guys have seen it, right? Where he said that... Oh, actually, look, I did forget about something. This is why I should look at my own Telegram before I go live. So there's a couple of things, actually, I want to show. I'm not going to show the 5-minute long video message from Trump today, because it's just boilerplate stuff. It's just exactly the kind of stuff that you would expect from a outgoing president, really. Look, it's exactly... he might as well have been Jeb in that video. He basically said, look, now is the time for our nation to heal, and blah. It was exactly what you'd expect it to be. It was condemning the violent, terrorists that stormed the Capitol building as his FBI goes around the country rounding these people up. Which is what they're doing. So I don't think you need to see that. If you must see it, you can go to my Telegram and watch it there. Devon Stack on Telegram, in case you're wondering. The link is, let's see here. Yeah, t.me/Devon Stack. So obviously no space. So if you must watch it, it is on there. Another video, and now I will probably play this video. For those of you wondering how the left is responding, it's always frustrating watching how the left responds, because they're so much more, they're more effective than the right, because there's no solidarity on the right, because the right is, they're there to lose. The right isn't supposed to win. That's not how this works. The right is supposed to lose and just sometimes slow things down if it starts to get a little too crazy, right? If they're there to keep their finger on the pulse of the people that would cause a problem if they went too fast with their agenda. And they're just there to corral these people and tell them to trust the plan, really. The left, however, they go balls to the wall. Like in the case of Trump. For the first 2 years of Trump's presidency, all you heard about was how the election was stolen. The election was stolen. The election was stolen. Collusion with Russia. Election interference. Russia hacked the voting machines. They literally said all the same shit. And did you have senators, Democrat senators, cowering in fear and afraid to talk about that or afraid to support this narrative? No. Did you have leftist television networks afraid to promote these conspiracy theories? Not at all. Did you have leftist Twitter putting warnings underneath Nancy Pelosi tweets when she would say that the election was rigged? No, of course not. They all work as one monolith, because the glue that holds them together is hatred of us. So it doesn't matter if they disagree on religion or on economics or on really anything, because what's more important to them is getting rid of us. And so they'll do anything that's going to further that. And if you want any proof of how, see, they think they know they're in a war, because they started it. They know they're in a war, so they don't have trouble using the strategies that you use when you're in a war. Now I'm going to play a clip from a guy that's talking to MSNBC. I think he's from the Lincoln Project. One of the founders of the Lincoln Project has been removed from their website because it has since come out that he's been trying to fuck underage men on Twitter. Well, some of them, I guess, were high school and college guys, promising them jobs while talking about his dick and such. But this guy here tells you exactly where their head's at. Tells you exactly where their head's at. And what they'll accept, which is nothing but submission. They want total submission. When have you has the GOP even said that about the Democrats? We want submission? No, they've never talked like that. Because they're not there to win. They're there to lose. So without further ado, here's a clip of that guy.
Big lie has been spread by Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and Mark Levin and Laura Ingraham and Fox News and OAN and Newsmax. But the last component they needed to lift this autocratic movement off the ground, to do the violence that they did, it needed the lift of the cynical elites. Josh Hawley, Stanford University, taught at Oxford, Yale Law School, Ted Cruz, Harvard Law School, the people that the country has afforded every conceivable privilege to, who turned against and betrayed it. And so we have to fight back against this. A lot of these members on the Republican side say now we need unity. There will be no unity with seditionists. The only thing we offer them is the chance for them to apologize and to retire from public life. That's the only thing. So we have to fight back against this. A lot of these members on the Republican side say now we need unity. There will be no unity. There will be no unity. There will be no unity with seditionists. The only thing we offer them is the chance for them to apologize and to retire from public life. That's the only thing we can do. Only two ways to win a fight, Nicole: to bring your opponent to defeat through submission, to bring your opponent to defeat through submission, to bring your opponent to defeat through submission, or they get you through exhaustion. And we can't become exhausted in this fight.
Submission or nothing. Total submission. There will be no unity. They will only win through submission or exhaustion. They will fight until they get total submission. Have you ever heard rhetoric like that coming from someone on the so-called right? Of course not. Because they're not in it to win it. They're not there to win. They're there to lose. In fact, he's talking about like, oh, you know what? You know, what we can do is we'll give the people the opportunity to leave public life forever, to retire and leave public life forever. And guess what? So because they're programmed to lose, many of them will take that opportunity. Trump appears as though he's taking that opportunity, doesn't he? In fact, if you want like a signal of how things are going, I wish I had this video. Comey said, well, you know, Trump should be arrested. And by the way, I've got reason to believe, and this is coming from reliable people, that they do have, speaking of indictments, they already have indictments for Trump, Giuliani, and Trump Jr. that they will set into motion after the 20th. If, you know, right now they're using it as a bargaining chip. But it appears that maybe it's already worked, because Comey was on video today saying, like, look, we should arrest Trump. We should put him in jail. But he seems to, you know, he seems to be bowing out of the public eye, and his rhetoric has calmed down a little bit. And, you know, to me, that says that Trump is playing ball now. Now, if you look at all of his past statements, it looks as though Trump is playing ball now. So, yeah. Now, there's there's a funny picture going around. This is slightly up. Well, actually, before we get to that, Trump isn't completely a lame duck. Apparently, Trump was able to do one thing today. Yeah, he was able to sign something into law. Let's pop this up for you guys. Yeah, Trump is still, his pen still works for right now, right? Let me bring this up for you guys. You'll like this. You're gonna like this one. All right, let's see here. Here, pop this up. Bill announcement. Ah, yes. This is gonna be good. This is gonna be good. Let me get to where I can read it. On Wednesday, January 13th, 2021, the president signed into law H.R. 221, the Special Envoy to Monitor and Combat Anti-Semitism Act, which elevates the Special Envoy for monitoring and combating anti-Semitism. So while he complains about the attack on free speech, on the way out the door, Trump signs H.R. 221, which polices free speech and seeks to punish those who criticize Israel and a certain tribe of people. Thank you very much, Trump, for that. Someone in chat just said, one last fuck you from Trump. Yes. That is precisely correct. So, Trump isn't totally lame duck yet. He's still able to sign some laws into existence. And meanwhile, here's the funny photo I was going to show you guys. A little levity in these weird times. We've all seen the photos and the videos of the troops in Washington, the National Guardsmen that are there to protect against, the hyperbolic. They're all afraid of Skynet, as I said the other day. Unmanned drones, but do not fear. Do not fear, DC. They've got their top people on the job. They got the very best, be all you can be. Or what's the new one? Army of One. They seem to change slogans so often. I don't know which one I don't know what the current slogan is. But this is the utter state of the United States military right now. That's that's your omnipotent United States military. Look, obviously she's not the representative of everyone in the military, but I just thought, like, holy God, I didn't know. Like, it's bad enough that we're letting women in the army, but what the fuck? Like, what is this? How do they even? Did she have to sew like two uniforms together to make that one? Like, it's. Oh boy. All right, guys. I'm going to take a look at chat here. Did Killstream get banned from DLive? Someone asked. I don't know for sure, but I think that they did. And there is a new platform called like Trovo or something like that. I made an account called Devon Stack because someone had already made one called blackpilled. And I guess you can sub over there. That's where I'll end up going if DLive ends up kicking me. but I guess it's called Trovo or something like that. Let me double check that. You can follow the Ralph Retort on Telegram. Yeah, it is called Trovo, Trovo. And so you can follow me over at Trovo. I think it's trovo.live/Devon Stack. Trovo.live/Devon Stack. So if something happens here, and again, I'll post announcements on the Telegram. So if there is a something happens here, if you're following me on Telegram, you'll know about it. And I'll probably also post that as long as I'm still on Twitter, to Twitter, Gab, I'm going to start using more. Gab, by the way, has, I think, completed a lot of their upgrades, and it's finally starting to kind of work. So it seems like it's working pretty smooth. Last time I was using it. So I'll post it to Gab. I'll post it all over the place if something happens here. I have a weird way of kind of like being under the radar, though, so I don't know if anything will happen here. If everyone abandons DLive, I'll probably just go to Trovo anyway. But right now, somehow at least I'm still on. Because there's, like I said, there's people that got banned from DLive that weren't doing anything, and I can't understand why they got banned. I guess I think they're a Chinese company, but someone was saying that they're based out of California. I don't know if it's a Chinese company that's based out of California or what, but or maybe their servers are in California. Maybe they just have an office in California. I don't know. So, but yeah, DLive annihilated how probably like half their traffic by getting rid of these guys, if not more. All right, let's take a look here. Butt Sex in Botswana should be the title of my next book. Amazon would never ban it. That's that's probably right. Let's take a look here. Thanks for responding. I don't remember what I responded to, but you're welcome. My thoughts on George Lincoln. I don't know much about him. Other than like the memetics around him, but I've never read his stuff. I think that there's, look, obviously I'm not one of these guys that obsesses about optics, but I do think that there's effective persuasion and ineffective persuasion. And just, again, I don't know. I've never read his stuff. And all I've seen is just like the photos and that kind of a thing. I know who he is, but I don't know who he is, if that makes any sense. And it just seemed to me that he wasn't going about things in a persuasive way. And again, I'm not saying, optics are everything, because they're not, but they're not nothing either. And especially given the time frame, you got to remember, because I believe, at least just judging on the photos I've seen, look, I've never researched this guy, so maybe I'm totally off on this. But if it's like the 1950s or 1960s, so really only like a decade after the World War, and you're walking around in the uniform of the enemy that everyone was brainwashed to hate, you're not going to really, you're not going to win a lot of hearts and minds. You know what I mean? Like the programming's too thick. You can't get through that. I mean, the country was just literally pumping everyone in the country's mind, like everything from cartoons, posters, countless movies. They were just getting brainwashed all this shit to hate that uniform and hate anyone wearing that uniform. And I understand it. I get the idea that this was like probably the shock value had something to do with it, but it wasn't that effective. And so that's all I would say is you have to be a little more, I think. And again, I don't know. Maybe he wrote like really good stuff that I've just never encountered. And because it's not fair to just judge him off of a few photos or whatever, but just the optics are bad. I hate to say it that way, but that's the way to put it. It's not very persuasive. And so it was kind of like, will you reach some people? Yeah, you'll reach some people because the shock value, right? You'll reach the kind of people that will be attracted to that the shock value. But that's not the average person. And so I don't know. What did he accomplish? You know, at the end of the day, that's how you have to judge it. Like, what did he get done? And I don't think probably nothing really that lasting, right? I mean, he's still a meme, I guess. When you go for the shock value thing, you'll probably be a meme for eternity. Because you'll be an anomaly, right? And so, in a way, that worked. So if his plan was to be ineffective in the now, but then to later be used as a meme, I don't know. Maybe that's a strategy. Yeah, someone just said he's reaching more people today than he did in the 60s. Exactly. So if that's your plan, I don't think that was his plan, but if that's your plan, you do give yourself... The trade-off is you'll repulse people in the now, but you'll give yourself kind of in the era of media that never goes away. Now that we've got, especially now that everything's digital and everyone has the ability to store hours and hours of video and tons of images and everything like that, and share them, and until they clamp all that down, you basically give yourself a kind of immortality to where you can pop up later, decades later, and be, like I said, be like a meme. And maybe he wrote like some really good stuff, and people are attracted to the memetics of it, and they see a picture of him, and they're like, oh, wow, who's this guy? That guy's nuts. And then they go and read whatever he wrote. I don't know, because I haven't read if he's written anything. So that's my thoughts on that. Rockwell's doing an act, provocateur imagery. Scroll up too fast. To get media attention, and then when he does an interview, he'd be calm and reasonable. Yeah, I mean, look, and that's a strategy. It's just not a strategy that's going to work in the now. Because, I mean, anyone can do that. Because the reason why the media gives them those interviews is because they know that it's not going to be persuasive. That the imagery is so bad and so negative that it helps their cause, at least in the now, right? Because like they can be like, look at these people. They're wearing Nazi uniforms. You know what I mean? And so that's going to just automatically turn... I mean, for the last 20, 30 years prior, everyone in the audience has been subjected to propaganda, nonstop propaganda, to hate that uniform. And so he automatically loses with the audience that he's getting by wearing that uniform. And they know that. That's why they're giving him the interviews. Because he serves as a caricature for people. So that's why I think it's just a bad strategy. But does it have some upsides? Yeah, I guess, just not in the now. Like, in the current if what you're trying to do is convince people now, you have to work within the constraints of now. And you have to slowly, painfully sometimes, push over the Overton window. And you know what? Sometimes you have to give it a good kick too, right? But I think he did more than give it a good kick. I think he, body slammed it, which is more than it can handle. Let's see here. Do I ever plan to get married and have kids? Look, there have been times where that was in my plan. I kind of vacillate back and forth. It depends, right? there's benefits to that, but I've talked about this a little bit. There's something called group selection, and I'm sure that anyone that follows the the Jolly Heretic is aware of this, where some people help pass on their genes not by breeding and passing on their genes, but by defending the genes of the people who are genetically close to them, right? So like a good example, that would be like a kamikaze pilot. A kamikaze pilot who, before he is able to have children, flies his airplane into a aircraft carrier or destroyer or whatever like that. When he's doing that, he is attempting to defend the genes of his nieces and nephews, you could say, right? Or just his people. And so he is doing something for the group. And in some way, his genes will pass on, because genes that are similar to his genes will pass on. And if you're an activist, especially moving forward, it's going to become more and more dangerous to be an activist. It's just going to be a dangerous thing. And women are not attracted to danger. Women are attracted to, they're attracted to assholes and stuff like that, but they're not attracted to, they're attracted to safety. Like when they're attracted to assholes, paradoxically enough, it's because they're attracted to safety. They think, well, if he's this big asshole that's violent and whatever, he will keep me safe, because he's a violent guy that can fend off all the other violent guys, right? And it's just not. That's not a life that a lot of women want to go out to a bunker in the middle of the desert and make desert babies. And I feel like I have a calling in life to do what I'm doing, and I'll be building on that. I'm not just saying like my calling in life is to do live streams in the middle of the night, right? So it's just one of those things where, look, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it's not going to bother me that much. I'm not saying that I want to be a monk. But I guess a monk might be another example of group selection. You're not being a kamikaze and flying your airplane into a destroyer or an aircraft carrier, but you are dedicating your life to helping others, right? Spiritually instead of physically, but you're still helping people out. So that's just the way it is. Plus, and look, it's easy to get laid. It's easy to get laid. It's easy to find. In modern America, it's easy to find a girlfriend. It's just not easy to find the kind of wife that would be able to live this lifestyle. And look, it's not that bad here. It's not that bad. I know I talk shit about living in the bunker in the desert, but it's not that bad. It's not like I'm living with, not like I have dirt floors and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like it's just not fancy. It's not fancy at all. And there's like weird bugs and weird snakes and stuff like that. But look, no matter if you live in a homestead, women talk a big game about homestead life, right? Because it looks really fancy on Instagram. Like, oh wow, look at that amazing view. I'd love to live on a homestead. But then when they actually have to do it, it's like, oh, there's no mall. I don't know about this. And so look, that's just a part of it. Now there's some women that would be really excited to live this kind of life. So we'll see. It's not something I sit here and obsess too much about it, honestly. All right, let's take a look here. Yeah, the Pinterest homestead boards. Yeah, like that's the thing is there's tons of, it's kind of like the van life YouTubers, like all these hot chicks that would be like, I'm gonna live the van life, and they have these YouTube channels where and these Instagram pages with all these, like, they're they're always half naked for some reason while they're living in this van. And they do all these, but then you find out that like they're not really living in a van. You know, or like that Survivor guy. Remember that Survivor guy that's like, they're going to drop me off in the forest or in the Amazon, and I'm going to live in the Amazon with just my knife for a week. And then you find out he's staying at like a 5-star hotel, and they're just going out every once in a while and shooting footage for the episode. That's how this stuff is. But I'm living here. This is where I live, and there's some drawbacks, and a lot of those drawbacks. Look, there's a reason why there's no female hermits. When you think hermit, you don't think of a woman. You think of a man with a beard, living in the forest, you know, by himself. Men can do that. Women, not so much. And I'm not totally by myself. It's not like I'm completely isolated. I can walk to my nearest neighbor's house pretty easily. You know, they borrow stuff from me sometimes. I borrow stuff from them. They're sub-community. But it's there's no mall. You know, there's no nail salon. There's no hair salon. There's no fancy 5-star restaurants out here. So, someone said cat ladies are the hermit equivalent. Yeah, but that's still different because they live in the city. Cat ladies rarely just live off in the forest. They're dependent usually on social services and live in like an apartment or in the city somewhere. They rarely just go out on their own and try to live off the land. You know what I mean? Let's see here. I remember a time when David Duke was a member of the Democratic Party. How did that happen? I don't remember that time. That's before my time. Verg is lucky with his wife. I've still never watched any Verg. I know who he is, obviously, but I've still never watched that. Yeah, there's some women that they're into the outdoor stuff. It's just not very common. Coyotes kill cats. Yes, they do. Hey, Devon, your book was surprisingly good, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you for the great work. Thank you, Red Skylanders. Which frequency should hams tune to tonight? I don't know. Maybe you could go to the Utah Web SDR and see where the traffic is. You know, the funny thing is, the modern ham radios that have the waterfall display, that's so cheating. I hate those waterfall displays because it just shows you everything that's going on. All my radios are old school, so you have to just tune around and find it. But at the same time, it's useful if you're just trying to see what's going on the radio. Varg's wife is a barely functional autist. I don't know if that's true. I don't even know. I've never seen her. There's some benefit to that, I guess. Is there money in raising coyotes? I don't think so. Coyotes are very low value. I mean, you can sell their pelts, but even when you have like the fancy one, they're not worth anything. Waterfall display kills CQ. My radio has a waterfall, but don't really use it. Coyote milk. Yeah, there's no coyote milk. ICOM 7300 is okay, but overrated. Check out the Zygu for a third of the price. Is there a Zygu that's like 100 watts though? I mean, maybe there is. If it's 100 watts and only $300, then yeah, I'd say go for it. But you can get the 7300 for about $1,000. Check your inbox. I got something that might cheer you up. I don't know what. I'm not sad. And depends on what inbox. But I'll check my inboxes, I guess, tonight. All they talk about on ham is COVID. Well, it's because they're all old. They're all terrified of COVID. They are terrified of COVID. They think it's the boogeyman that they're worried about. No, you need a linear. The Zygu is around $350. Yeah, I mean, look, you can get a Zygu. I've used some of the cheaper ones. It is what it is. You can get cheap linear amps, but then you also need to get an antenna tuner, and the 7300 has a built-in antenna tuner. So you just got to think of it that way. Like, it's $1,000, but it's Japanese, not Chinese. It's got a built-in antenna tuner. It has 100 watts already. It has like the waterfall displays and stuff like that. It also has pretty good filtering. So it depends on how much fiddling you want to do, or if you just want, like, here's a box that does everything I need it to do. You know what I mean? If you're someone that likes to tinker, it might make more sense to get the Zygu, especially if you've already got like an antenna tuner and all that other stuff. So, imagine being afraid to die. Well, boomers are very afraid of dying. Chat froze on my end. Yeah, it froze on my end too for a second, but now it looks like it's starting to work again. Don't get me started on mommy issues in men. WTF. Okay, I'm not sure what you're talking about. I bet Devon has embarrassing rave party stories from back in the day. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how embarrassing they are. They're just, other than the fact that, like, we got really fucked up. That's all I'm going to say. Got really fucked up and woke up in some weird places. Nothing too embarrassing, though. Anyone know the gist of his book I'm thinking about buying? Just buy it. What is your position on Proton Mail? I use it. It's all encrypted. You can encrypt the mailbox. You can have the password and then encrypt the mailbox. So you have like 2 passwords essentially. And that's what I do. And it's all free. And I trust the company, at least as of so far. What was my best and worst experience during my time filmmaking? Oh, that's kind of a tough one. I'd say the best and worst. I don't know. I really enjoyed doing it, honestly. So even when it was bad, it kind of like, if I think of like the times when it was bad now, it kind of like, it's like it's still a positive memory because I just enjoyed doing it. And then best, it's kind of hard to say too. Like I don't know. That's a tough one. That's something I'll have to think about. Snail mail or GTFO? Well, I don't know about snail mail. People think it's 100% safe. It's actually not. The difference is, though, no, they might do this anyway. They do photograph every piece of mail that goes through the mail. And that gets digitally stored somewhere, and I'm sure that the people you wouldn't want to have access to that have access to it. So it's still not safe. I guarantee you they map all that out, like who's sending mail to who, and they have the ability to stop any piece of mail at any point through the delivery process, and they can open it and whatever, I'm sure, and read it. Now, they're not supposed to do that unless they have a warrant, but as we have discovered, it's FISA warrants just get rubber stamped like they're nothing, and don't think that you're going to be any more protected than Trump was when he was running in 2016. I went to a rave one time. The music was awful. There was no beer. I bought a $12 milkshake that was too gross to drink. It was bad. Well, yeah, not a lot of people. There's not a lot of alcohol, or at least the ones I went to. There wasn't a lot of alcohol so much as just lots of drugs. Tell us Chainlink is based. I was a stinky linky for a while. I don't have any now. But I don't know enough about the current state of crypto to comment on that. I would have said a few years ago that it was a good idea. Now I don't know if that's something that's been. I don't know. I haven't been paying attention to it, so I don't know where they're at right now. Can someone send me Devon's Proton Mail? He gave me his take on Proton Mail instead of his address. Oh, you could send it to. What's a good one? I've got a few. I just don't want them to get spammed up. Okay, yeah, one I don't check very often, but it's still, you can send to evilhillary@protonmail.com. evilhillary@protonmail.com. And I'll probably be able to get to it at some point. OnlyFans is a ploy to make all women unacceptable to trad men and create blackmail on every family years ahead of time. I don't know about that. I think it's simpler than that. That's just a way to destroy women in the now and make money doing it. Did I ever get my stimulus check? No, I did not get stimulus checks. I don't know what that means. Something about LSD. Yeah, not so much black male, but lots of black males. Slutty men deserve slutty women. Thoughts on mainstream media warning of the right-wing riots on the 20th. No one on the right is calling for this. Well, it's because that's what they want. Part of it is because that's what they want to push through the legislation that they want to get done. And part of it is it's just the 180-degree out-of-phase Q-tards. That it's just people on the left are hysterical. And they really, they really do think that the 6th was like an attempted coup. And they really do think that there's going to be more terror attacks. Like, they really think that. They're just kind of crazy people. They're just like Q people. They're looking at it from the other side. And so that's why the leftists are willing to believe it. And the people saying that don't believe it, it's because they want it to happen. And they want to set the stage so that if anything happens at all, whether it's manufactured or not, they can say, see, we told you. That's why we need to have all these laws, these red flag laws and everything else. And they've already got these laws written and ready to go. But this is just, they need the PR campaign. They need to have the problem solution kind of thing going on. And once they convince the NPCs on the left, they don't care what the NPCs on the right think. So all they have to do is tell the NPCs on the left, like, see, this is why we need to take everyone's guns and do all this authoritarian stuff because, the Nazis are going to take over the Capitol if we don't do this. Okay, keep going here. What's your opinion on Frazzle Drip? It's fake. Everything that people have sent me with that, it's fake. We got to break out of the left-right paradigm. No, we don't. No, we don't. Everyone that says that doesn't know what they're talking about. That's like this. Look, we're not in a place where it's left versus right. It's right versus wrong. You can't have people who don't know what bathroom to use on your side. And you can't undo that programming. There is no coming together. We're gonna come together like the cast of the new Star Wars movies and fight the Empire. That's just fiction. That's never gonna happen, and it's never happened. It's never in history happened. It's not going to happen now. People are tribal. So you have to pick your tribe. And look, the banks, so-called banks, they're tribal too. It's not like they're some kind of multicultural ruling class. Okay? Now, they're also, it's not just like a monolith. There's different factions. We've talked about that before. But everyone's tribal. And that's always the way it's going to be. And you can't just all let's all hold hands, kumbaya, and now let's take on that's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. It's not even happening on the left. The only thing that's holding the left together is the fact that they feel like they're not winning, and they feel like they're not winning because they have a common enemy that they have to destroy, and surprise, that's you. So first of all, you're never going to be able to compromise with a bunch of groups that all see you as their existential threat. They all see you as the enemy that has to be destroyed before anything can happen. And by the way, if they manage to do that, the second they get into control, I mean, look, you'll see this now. Once Biden is president, and they no longer feel quite the panic that they have been feeling for the last 4 years, they're instantly going to start fighting each other again. And you'll see something else that'll change. If the right doesn't have Trump in the White House, and this is something I've talked about that's a benefit, you'll instantly see the opposite. You're going to have a lot of people that would have been fighting over little details and stuff like that unifying because they'll have a common enemy. They won't feel as comfortable because they're going to have people that pose an existential threat in charge, passing laws and doing things that actually light a fire under their ass a little bit. So look, you're never gonna, this whole thing like, oh, there is no left and right. We need to come together and fight the ruling class. Look, we want different things. We want fundamentally different things. We see the world in fundamentally different ways, and a lot of that's genetic, and it's not going to change. So this fantasy that you have that has literally never happened, like go back in history, look for the time that a multicultural society all came together and overthrew their rulers. Find me that one example in history that doesn't exist. Okay? That's just the way it is. It doesn't exist. And I would love for it to be like Star Trek, and that we all have all these different friends that are all from these different cultures, and everyone respects each other's cultures, and we wear these really fancy jumpsuits and have holodecks and whatever. That's never going to happen. It's never going to be a thing. It's just never going to be a thing. You can't team up with people that want you dead. And they want you dead. You need to figure that out. You need to figure that out right now. If you think that you can somehow, we need to get over our differences. The difference is they want you dead. You can't get around that. Someone said the only way there is no left or right is that there is no difference between Democrats and Republicans. That's correct. It's not Democrats versus Republicans. No one thinks that, really. Not even the people on the left think that. Like, if you watch their progressive shows, even like Jimmy Dore and stuff like that, who is sometimes tolerable, they know it's not Democrats versus Republicans. So they know it too. But there is a difference between left and right. And it's differences that you can't smooth over. It's not that we both want the same things, we just have different paths. We want different things. Yeah, the big psyop was run against the left. The spirit behind Occupy and anti-1% was an actual threat, hovering over the bullseye. Well, yeah, they subverted that because there was the real possibility of class warfare, and it scared them. Look, that's why do you think the six scared them so much? I've said this. We don't need to get into it again, but notice how the right they were focused on the right target, is all I'm going to say. Their protest wasn't like when the left protests, they do stupid crazy things that have nothing to do with their actual problem. They go and burn their own neighborhoods down and stuff like that, right? Like that's in no way is that going to help them out, right? But that's not what the right does. In USSR, communism gave the people a target. The destruction of the family. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Charlottesville scared them too. Yeah, it did. Absolutely it did. I still don't know why everyone got so gun shy about that. I mean, obviously the prison time stuff, but I mean, in terms of the optics of that, they weren't as bad as I think people thought. Devon, did you trust the politics? Oop, that went so fast. At some point while being blackpilled, maybe you had hopes in politics or something. Yeah, look, I held out hope that maybe Trump would pull something crazy off. Like, not because of Q. Like, I never thought Q was real. But I mean, like, I still hope, and that's why a lot of people believed in Q, because a lot of people hoped that he would maybe do something. You know? Like, I'm not a pessimist as much as people think. I held out hope that he would do something for a really long time. And I waited until, like, every piece of evidence that I could get my hands on was telling me the exact opposite before I was like, fuck, yeah, this isn't going to happen. Thoughts on call for an uprising? I don't know. Like, only reason I know who that is people thought that was me for some reason. I got people always commenting like, "Oh, I like your other channel," and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so I listened to it, and I was like, oh, I don't know why people think this is me. Doesn't sound like me. Are we going to set up a black-pilled hamnet? Yeah, I think we should. Not a lot of this stuff we'll have to wait after the 20th. But yeah, I think that we should do that. That'd be kind of fun. Or at least something like that. Maybe not like an official net, but maybe something using. I mean, the reason why I say maybe not an official net is your call sign doxes you, right? And so maybe not an official net, but maybe something. That's all I'm gonna say. IQ was real. You wouldn't have heard about it until the. Oh, I think you meant if Q was real, you wouldn't have heard about it until the coup happened. Right. His new name is A Call for a Rainbow. Okay. Hey, Devon, do you think that any protest riot today is natural, or is it always sponsored by some corpo? There's lots of natural ones, but there's also a lot of money that goes to different protests. It's a mix. And look, just because maybe there's a rich guy who really believes that and he wants to put some money into signs or busing people in, I don't think necessarily that means it's artificial. It just means there's a rich guy that's helping out with the organization of it. Why did I leave the Mormon church? Honestly, I left it because I wanted to do drugs and fuck girls. And then the times that I would go back later in life, it just didn't, you know, like it felt right in terms of like I've said before, I feel like ethnically Mormon in some way. So like I felt comfortable around the people, but I didn't feel like, you know, I don't know. It just didn't feel like that's what I should be doing. Have you looked into using encrypted LoRaNet? I don't know what that is. Do not know what that is. Was I LDS or FLDS? That was LDS. Do you remember the Y2K hoax people were pushing 20 years ago? A little bit. I remember like everyone being freaked out by it, and like all the TV shows and cartoon or commercials. I mean, about it. Have I heard about the anti-Semitism bill? Yeah, we already talked about that. For doing an official net, could you make a second tutorial explaining what stuff you actually, or what I use for ham radio? Yeah, what I use is going to be a lot different than what most people are going to be using. All my radio equipment is older than me, or at least the vast majority of it is. So the fundamentals are the same. You know, like they do the same things, but I guess it'd be kind of fun show and tell. You know, showing my old equipment off. Some of it's in pretty good condition and it works still. So it'd be kind of fun to be like, yeah, this is my cool, 40, 50-year-old whatever. But it might be confusing to people because a lot of it's obsolete in a lot of ways. You build LoRa hardware with Raspberry Pi. Well, I don't even know what LoRa is. I'll have to look into it. I've got a few Raspberry Pis laying around though. I was born LDS. Like I've said before, like I was, my family, they were Mormons before there were Mormons. Like I'm related to like the first Mormons. So that's why I said I'm kind of ethnically Mormon, because my family are pioneers. They were the ones that settled the West. So, how many wives are allowed for a Mormon? Well, nowadays just one. But there was a time where that was different. Nothing wrong with old gear. I have a lot of ex-military gear from the 60s and 70s, still going strong. Yeah, well, not all my old gear. Like half of my hobby is using the old gear, and half my hobby is fixing old gear. Mormon army will save you. Well, I don't know. People like Romney are Mormons. Harry Reid is a Mormon. That McMuffin guy is a Mormon. Jason Chavez is a Jew that converted to Mormonism. Figure that one out. There's a lot of bad Mormons. What's a good response to the claim Jews are white like Germans and Italians? Well, they're just genetically. Look, if you couldn't be if there was no such thing as a Jewish race, how could you get a blood test to find out if you're a Jew in Israel? Simple as that. Just tell people that. Tell people that if you go to Israel, in legal cases, they have a Jew test, a blood test, where they look at their genetics, and they find out how Jew you are to determine the outcome of legal cases in Israel. So if Jew isn't a race, how does that work? If Jew isn't a race, how come if you do 23andMe, it'll tell you how much Jew you are? If Jew isn't a race, how come when, what's that guy? Ben Shapiro did his 23andMe, it came back 100% Ashkenazi Jew. If Jew isn't a race, how is all this possible? Obviously, Jew is a race. And Jews will tell you that Jew is a race. The only people that tell you that Jew isn't a race are basically boomers that don't want to believe that Jew is a race, because that fucks up the programming that the racial Jews told them about Jews not being a race. But Jews know Jew is a race. You couldn't test for it if it wasn't a race. Jew is a race. And then, if you want to take it another way, go try to convert. See how easy that is. It's Mormons not a race, because Mormons have been trying to convert everyone from like Samoans to like everybody. And they've been trying to, they want really bad for you to go to convert, right? They'll convert anybody. And a lot of Christian religions are like that. And I think that's why Christians' perceptions of Jews is all fucked up, because they've been told their whole lives, and this is, by the way, this is in my book. I cover this in my book. They've been told their entire lives that, Jews they're just like you. The only difference is they don't have the New Testament. That's it. And so you're like, that's easy for me to understand, because I know that the Old Testament and New Testament are very different. And I know that like the purpose of the New Testament, I understand they don't believe in Jesus. So that makes sense that they wouldn't believe in the New Testament. Okay. I think I understand Jews now. You don't, because, well, first of all, they don't tell you about the Talmud. That's like a whole nother book that is nothing to do with the Old Testament or New Testament. And actually says in the book, well, and first of all, it's newer than the New Testament. And it says in the Talmud that Jesus is boiling in a vat of shit and semen for eternity. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that that your life is worth the same as an animal, and that the difference between a Jew and a Goy is larger. Like the gap between us is wider than the gap between a Goy and a cow. So the difference between you and a literal a beast that you can go eat, right? Like it's like an animal that's okay for you to have for dinner. The difference between you and an animal that's okay to eat for dinner is smaller than the difference between a Jew and you. That's what they teach. That's what they teach. They don't tell you that. So there's all these things that Christians just don't know about. They don't know about it because who's writing their textbooks in schools? Well, you might want to do a little research on the early life on those people. Who's making the movies that they're watching? Who's producing the music that they're listening to? Who owns all the news networks that they're watching? Of course they're not going to ever hear about this. And in fact, a lot of these people that, especially like in the South, where they follow these televangelist types and all this other stuff, these guys go to trips to Israel. The Zionists go to Israeli pilgrimages, and of course they're getting paid off to keep promoting this idea that we need to all be Christians in service to Israel. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Do you love your parents? Of course I love my parents. I don't know if you're talking to me. Who's writing the study notes for their Bible? Well, yeah, there's different Bibles. And in fact, they're trying to make a new Bible that's for the... look, I don't want to get into it. Adam Green has a lot of good stuff. If you want to know more, go to nomorenews.org. Know as in something you know. And there's tons of videos that Adam Green has done a lot of good work on exposing a lot of this stuff. But most Christians just don't know this because they think it's the same thing with Islam. It was the exact same thing with Islam, where Christians think, they think the same way that Christians have this. That's the problem. I think that they just have a limited amount of experience, especially because America was a Christian nation. So you're only really encountering other Christians. That's your point of reference. And so when you meet someone that has a completely different ideology and a completely different background, the only way you can maybe kind of determine what that might be like is just based on your own experience. And if your experience is only encountering Christians, you're going to just try to project some a distorted version of Christianity onto them, because that's all you got to go on. You don't realize that it's fundamentally different. That it's totally different. And that like in Christianity, for example, there's not like an ethnic component to it, right? Like there's not different rules. Like in Christianity, there's not a rule that says, well, you treat Christians this way, but you treat Jews this way. Like that's not anywhere in any Christian sect, right? There's no ethnic aspect to Christianity, really. That's not actually entirely true, but the way that it's practiced, there's not, okay? And so it blows the mind. It's inconceivable to these Christians that Jews would have such a heavy focus on ethnicity, or that even that there'd be such a hatred for Jesus still, right? Like that look, the average Christian isn't mad at Jews for killing Jesus, but a lot of Jews are mad at Christians for worshiping Jesus. And it's like the clip that I played from Abby Hoffman. I think it's Hoffman, right? Abby, whatever it was. The guy who started the Flower Power movement, the Jewish guy, and said when he was young, if he said the word Jesus, his mom would hit him on the head. And they weren't allowed to say it. I mean, that's called holding a grudge. And they've done polling. They've done polling where not like some weird, a poll, like a scientifically conducted poll by like Gallup, where the other religions or the members of other religions that you respect the most or whatever, and all these evangelicals, all their praise gets heaped upon, or at least the majority of it gets heaped upon Jewish people. And then when you look at the numbers coming from the respondents who are Jewish, they have nothing but contempt for those people that love them. That's just the way it is. And most people, they just have no idea that that's how it is. And that's why we lose. Holding a grudge for 2,000 years. Yeah, they are. A lot of them are holding a grudge. And look, obviously not all Jews, but like, it's a we got to think in the macro these days. We can't be thinking just in the micro. Then if your stuff is old, could you recommend a channel that's good for doing radio and stuff? Yeah, Ham Radio, what's it called? Crash Course on YouTube. Ham Radio Crash Course on YouTube. Does a shit ton of videos. He's always doing videos, and he's got like maybe thousands of videos in his catalog. And he seems like a pretty decent dude, guy out of California. I've actually talked to him on the air before. So I've heard him doing CQ before and responded. The Talmud also says that Mary was raped by a Roman soldier. Yep. Pantera. The Talmud says that a Roman soldier by the name of Pantera raped Mary, and that's where Jesus came from. They hate Jesus. They hate Jesus. They still hold a grudge against the Pharaoh. They do, and the Romans. It's funny how even the Bible says the Jews aren't good people. Jesus took half a day to braid a whip to chase them out of the temple. Yep. Actually, I got a funny clip about that I can play. Let me see if I've got it here. Because I was going to edit something with this. Yeah, here it is. I think this is it.
Prosecution of felon, gangster, mafiotic, negroidic, the Black Frank Gelada, a gangster judge, therefore unprosecutable. The blackish, menial, negroidic in appearance and demeanor, felon, vicious, parroting puppet, ex-district attorney Nassau County, with no private law experience, detested by all factions, in spite of this solely because of his many-year secret gangsterization and crucifixion of me, this negroidic, low, mafiotic, deadly Black Frank Gelada was then immediately and unprecedentedly and repeatedly, rapidly promoted in spite of tremendous opposition to the present position of second highest state judgeship solely through gangster computer god manipulation. As additional evidence, during the last week of my within-mentioned month-long, worse than a farce Nazi court criminal trial in Nassau County Court, 1958, where dwarfed felon, gangster, parroting, puppet, rectum, lapper, sodomist Judge William Sullivan's ball of fat felon slut wife, she, as planned, sat in the front row, repeatedly stripping her overclothes and completely pulling up her dress and slip and pulling aside her old-fashioned pink bloomers in order to display her anus, her conch. She repeatedly gesticulated and whispered, "I'll give it to you to suck. Finish him." Her husband, dwarfed felon, gangster, parroting, puppet, rectum, lapper, sodomist Judge William Sullivan, flushed-faced in repeated open sodomistic displays, stuck out his tongue, wiggling it, chuckling to her. You hangman rope, gangster, felon, parroting, puppet, scum on top playboys can watch my Frankenstein eyesight television playback of this felonious, lowly sodomistic display by the felon, sodomist Judge William Sullivan and his lowly felon slut wife during my trial in Nassau County Court. After my worse than Nazi court criminal conviction, crucifixion, for years in poverty I suffered hopeless, jobless, character assassination, assassination, and isolation in this low, deadly nigger town. I was the repeat target victim of this gangster government's gangsterization and undetectable extermination attempts to shut me up forever with my secrets. Then, in December 14th to 17th, 1965, I attempted to escape this worst mongrel gangster communist country to return to the Slovenic Polish land of my forefathers. Instead, in a gangster-staged parroting puppet deadly conspiracy, I was flown from Kennedy, New York Airport at night to a small distance St. Lawrence River estuary, snowbound small airport under the guise that I was in Warsaw, Poland. Immediately, many things proved this to me, including the two big white asbestos shingled hangars with the large Brand F Airways signs on their sidewalls, in addition to the many blurted statements I solicited from the many CIA deadly gangsters, the assassins of me, the many parroting puppets all around me. I demanded an immediate flight back to Kennedy, New York Airport. Instead, I was held captive all night later in chains. I refused both all food and requests I go to sleep. Then CIA police gangsters pretending to be Polish police with no identification beat me bloodily. Later, while my return trip 707 Boeing jet airliner was being serviced for my return trip, I quickly walked into the airplane and saw a CIA gangster with a small electric hairdryer type blower pumping deadly poison nerve gas smoke into secret compartments under the ashtrays in the arms of the chairs, where later I was ordered to sit in the airplane full of CIA underlings, passengers, my assassins, who giggled as they watched me dragged in chains by the airplane. By the gangster CIA police gangsters, these deadly gangster CIA passengers, they pressed the frontal panel of the ashtrays in the seat arms to release the deadly poison nerve gas smoke. Indubitably, all of the others deadly CIA underling gangsters aboard this staged return flight, they all had taken the top secret poison nerve gas antidote pill, immuning them from the deadly poison nerve gas smoke. Deadly poison nerve gas smoke was sprayed at me from cigars, cigarettes, and even from ballpoint pens, also from the wig of a woman sitting next to me. Even the Swiss cheese type ice cubes were evaporating into poison nerve gas smoke in all of the free drinks. I got up and went to the rear of the airplane by the rear exit door with a large push-up handle. My Frankenstein brain thoughts broadcasting radio disclosed my intentions. Immediately, the loudspeakers screamed that the flight was over and that our airplane was already preparing to land at Kennedy, New York Airport. You hangman rope sneak gangster playboy scum on top know these facts are true, not only from taking part in such undetectable exterminations, but also you chicanerous, demented, felon, parroting puppet gangsters can watch my Frankenstein eyesight television playback of all these horrible, terrifying, deadly events. When I returned home, Joseph I. Deck, my only brother and deadly felon, murderer, and assassin spy agent against me for this gangster government, he beat me repeatedly, cursing me that I was not exterminated by all of the poison nerve gas smoke, and that I did the impossible in that I kept awake for 3 days and refused all food in order to prevent my sneak extermination. In accordance with the...
So yeah, that's the kind of Christianity that Christians have forgotten about. They concentrate too much on turn the other cheek, but like I said, unless you want slapping your ass, people slapping your ass, you've only got one other cheek. Like, that's it. You give people a second chance. Absolutely. But you don't just let them hit you over and over and over again and just keep turning your cheek back and forth, back and forth. One more time.
For prosecution of felon, gangster, mafiotic, negroidic, the Black Frank Gelada, a
Do not
gangster
think
judge,
I have come to
therefore
bring peace on
unprosecutable,
earth.
the blackish, medial, negroidic, and appearance
I've come
leader,
not to
felon,
bring
vicious,
peace.
parroting puppet, ex-district attorney, Nassau County, with no private law experience, detested
But
by
a
all
sword.
nations, in spite of this, solely because of his many...
So there you go. That's the Jesus that's been written out of the churches like the Unitarian Church. Someone just said turning the other cheek is an act of defiance, not passivity. Yeah, you can look at it that way too. It's like, yeah, you want to hit me? You want to hit me, tough guy? Fucking hit me. Hit me. So that's, you know, it's a, you know, like, it didn't happen overnight. Christians used to understand this. Back when Christians controlled their own culture, They understood this. But Christians haven't, in the West at least, Christians haven't controlled their own culture for about 100 years or more. I did a whole video on it. Like, the vast majority of Christmas songs were written and performed often by Jews, which is insane. It'd be like if you went to Israel and, in fact, it's probably the same ratio, right? There's probably more Christians in Israel per capita than there are Jews in America. But even so, it'd be like if you went to Israel and all the Hanukkah songs were written by Christians. It would be weird. It would be really weird. But that's the way it is. Most of your favorite Christmas songs, you know, everything from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. What do you think that song's about? Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer had a very shiny nose. And if you ever saw it, you would even say it glows. All of the other reindeer, the Christians, used to laugh and call him names. They wouldn't let poor Rudolph, a Russian name, by the way. Isn't that funny? Rudolph, a Russian name, and where did a lot of the Jews that came to America come from? You know, where did Steven Spielberg's family come from? Where did Weinstein's family come from? Where did Epstein's family come from? Yeah, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was written by a Jew. In fact, Dennis Prager, of all people, Dennis Prager is Jewish, and Dennis Prager specifically said that, I mean, he would agree with my analysis. Like, he said, as if it was a good thing, like, oh, look, you know, we had all these Jews in America, and they always felt so out of place on Christmas. And you can see this reflected in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which was written by, like, this is Dennis Prager. Well, essentially says exactly what I say. He just says it's a good thing. It's a testament to Jewish ingenuity and creativity that they were able to channel these feelings into songs that would be accepted by Christians. Is Santa Karl Marx? Well, look, Santa Claus, that's another thing to think about. Why the big focus on Santa Claus? Now, some of that you can say, well, you know, it's because Christianity in the West has a lot of it was pagan stuff that was kind of mashed together with Christian stuff, because the West was pagan when Christianity first came to the West. And so in order to convert people, they had to, you know, especially like Easter, right? Like, what the fuck does the Easter bunny have to do with the resurrection? Nothing. And no one thinks that Jesus died or was born on December 25th, or that he was crucified on, well, it changes, right? The Easter changes depending on what year it is. So it has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that it was pagan holidays. So some of it's just that it's leftovers from pagan holidays, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's why I'm not like one of these people that thinks that you shouldn't have Santa Claus. But one of the reasons why media focuses on Santa Claus is because of course they're not going to focus on Jesus. Who do you think's making all these Christmas movies? They're not going to. In fact, I don't know if you ever noticed this. I remember when I was a kid, I was watching some Christmas cartoon, and they had this box of Christmas lights that they brought out of the attic, and on the box it said Xmas. And I asked my mom, like, why does it say Xmas? And she's like, oh, I don't know, just like an abbreviation. That's not why. It's because the cartoon was made by Jews. They didn't want to write Christ, so they wrote Xmas. Someone said it's Saint Nicholas. Yeah, no, there's different, there's different origins of Santa Claus. Saint Nicholas is certainly one of them. Christmas movies like Die Hard, exactly. Which I did a whole video on BitChute if you want to go check that out. Also, St. Nicholas was a big influence on Santa. Yeah. Hey, Devon, talk about the new domestic terrorism bill. Eric Stryker posted a link on Telegram. I haven't read it, but I'll read it, and then I'll talk about it. But I'm assuming it's not something I can just read on stream because it's probably pretty long. And there's the other one I need to look at too is the red flag law that they've already got ready to go. All right, well, I'm going to release the lemons, then I'm going to get going. Because we're over 2 hours now, and I run out of steam, actually. I'm kind of tired today. Here we go. Release the lemons. Let's see if there's any other last-minute things here. You cannot give psychopaths a second chance. It never ends well. Do you still believe Jesus or a God at least? Yeah, look, I don't have the strongest faith in the world, but I would say at the very least, even on my worst days, I am Christian philosophically. And on my best days, I have a lot of faith in my heart, and I still pray. But look, I mean, I think that even if you have a lot of faith and you're super, convinced of the trueness of the gospel and everything else, you're going to have moments of doubt, or you're not very smart. I mean, because you have to challenge your own faith, or you're just an NPC. Jesus Christ, 100% real. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure he's real. See if there's anything else. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to take off. Thanks for hanging out. And, I'll answer this one real quick. Got any analog video 3D graphics gear? Not analog 3D graphics gear. I don't think that exists. But I have analog video gear. I've got enough to do a broadcast with analog, which would be, no one could receive it. There's no analog TVs anymore. But yeah, I've got old switchers, and I even got a Betacam deck, and I have a U-matic deck, if you can believe that, if you even know what that is. And I've got VHS stuff and all that stuff. Yeah, I've been in video in a long time, and some of that stuff's before my time. But when because they're essentially useless, so they're dirt cheap, and I've picked them up over the years, and I've got I've recreated a little mini TV station, and as soon as I have the space set aside for a studio to do my streaming and everything else, I'm gonna actually use some of it because it'd just be funny to use it. Because it all works. Well, not all of it. So most of it works. Most of it works enough to where it'd be really fun to do live broadcasts using this 1980s stuff. It'd be pretty cool. So, all right, guys. Stay strong. Make sure you prepare. And prepare yourself for what's coming. Because I don't think it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows. But at the same time, hope for the best. Pray for the best. And for blackpilled, I am, of course, Devon Stack.
Prosecution of felon, gangster, mafiotic, negroidic, the Black Frank Gelada, a gangster judge, therefore unprosecutable, the blackish, menial, negroidic in appearance and demeanor, felon, vicious, parroting puppet, ex-district attorney Nassau County, and watch my Frankenstein eyesight television playback of this felonious, lowly, sodomistic display by the felon, sodomist Judge William Sullivan and his lowly felon slut wife during my trial in Nassau